in genetic programming, hormonal differences. So when we are talking about the term sex, we're more of talking about the more biological, the more physiological differences that stem in that biological difference. So the hormonal differences, our genetic makeup that can account for those differences. So when we're talking about the term sex, we're talking about those biological characteristics that are determined at conception. So, so being male or female involves not just biology, but also certain masculine and feminine feelings, attitudes, and behaviors. So professionals distinguish biological sex from psychosocial or sociological gender in terms of this masculine and feminine attitudes, behaviors, and characteristics that are attributed for that. So when we are talking about gender, we're talking about those feelings, attitudes, and behaviors that are associated with being male or female. So it refers to the socially made relationship between men and women, and it can also be said that gender is a socially and culturally constructed meaning attached with each sex. So when we're talking about sex, we're talking about that biological difference in that hormonal, that difference in hormonal makeup, and that stems in genetic makeup. So it's more of biological. But when we come to gender, it's those characteristics that we attribute for both femininity and masculinity, and what we consider are masculine and what we consider are feminine qualities and behaviors and attitudes and feelings. So to start our discussion, we will try to see some theories of gender development. So we'll try to see where gender differences are stemmed and how these differences are explained by different theories. So most arguments about the origin of gender difference in human behavior adopt one of two perspectives. One is essentialism, and the other one is social constructionism. So essentialists mainly see gender as part of the nature of sense of one's biological makeup, and see gender differences stemming in the difference in biology. And social constructionists see gender differences as a reflection of the different social positions occupied by women and men, and that are seen as being constructed socially and through socialization, rather than being rather than originating or being stemmed in biology. So in essentialism, there are two major theories that could explain gender difference. So we have psychoanalytic theory of Sigmund Freud, and we have sociobiological and evolutionary theories. So Freud offered an explanation of male-female differences in a way that originates or starts at the age of 3. So according to psychoanalytic theory, children at the age of 3 start noticing the differences in their genitals, and male children notice that they have a penis, and female children notice that they don't have a penis. And noticing this biological difference can arise into different complexes. So he believed that differences in male and female anatomy account for the development of distinct masculine and feminine gender roles. So the noticing of this difference in genitalia can be interpreted in different way, and can this interpretation of genital difference can account the gender difference according to psychoanalytic theory. So we have the Oedipus complex and penis envy. I don't know if you ever heard of these terms, but In psychoanalytic theory, these are two terms that are related with gender difference. So Oedipus complex is as a young boy becomes preoccupied with his penis, he unconsciously develops a fantasy of sexually possessing the most conspicuous female in his mother, which is his mother. But because of this desire, he's afraid that his father, who has the same sex with him, can castrate him because of this desire. So because of this fear of castration or anxiety, he will repress his feelings, and repression of these feelings can lead to identifying with his father. So after repressing these feelings, he would try to identify with his father. So he will more likely develop a more masculine and a more father-like characteristics. So this phenomena can lead to the development of strong, independent, and masculine personality, according to psychoanalytic theory. The other one is penis envy, which tries to explain this this genesis of gender development or gender difference. So penis envy is as the girl at that age starts realizing that she doesn't have a penis, she can develop that penis envy because she doesn't have that. So it's strikingly visible in large proportion, and it's recognized as a superior counterpart of her own small organs. So after that, she might develop that penis envy, that she might develop that sense of inferiority, according to psychoanalytic theory. So from time forward, for a victim to envy the penis, she has seen it and knows that she's without it and wants to have it. So as a result of penis envy, the young girl soon develops a sense of inferiority, according to Freud. So eventually, realizing that she will never have a penis, the girl comes to identify with her mother. However, according to Freud, since women are never able to solve their penis envy, they are dependent on men. So so psychoanalytic theory tries to understand the origin of gender difference and how masculine and feminine qualities and characteristics are developed in terms of identification with a certain parental figure. So that process of identification with a certain parental figure, according to Freud, comes from the realization that there is this biological difference, which is the possession of penis and the lack of penis, and that internal desire to, which is a sexual desire to the opposite sex parent, and the complex that results as a result of that. So Freud accounts the genesis of gender development in terms of the biological difference and the difference in genotypes. The other one is sociobiology and evolutionary psychology. So according to sociobiologists and evolutionary psychologists, all humans instinctively try to ensure their genes to be passed on to the future generation. So this whole idea of survival of the fittest and so wanting to pass one's genes into the other generation and to keep on going stems in the origin of gender difference. So men and women develop different strategies to achieve this goal, which is passing on their genes to the future generation and keep on going. So it's a woman's best interest to maintain primary responsibilities for her genetic children and to look around for the best mate with whom to intermix her genes. And a man increases the chances his genes will get passed on to the future generation if he's promiscuous yet jealously possessive of his partners. So the more partners he secured his partner with jealousy, he is more likely to pass his genes rather than others passing their genes through his partner, and he will have as he has a lot of partners, he would have a more chance of passing his genes. Moreover, since men compete with other men for sexual access to women, men involve competitive and aggressive dispositions that include physical violence. So this need to pass their genes to the future generation. There would be a sense of competition between men. So because of this competition, they could be more aggressive and they could have these more masculine characteristics has developed throughout time is one of the explanation of this evolutionary theory. So these are universal features of our evolved selves that contribute to the survival of human species. Thus, gender differences in behavior are based in biological differences between men and women. So according to this theory, it's all about trying to pass our genes, and that need for that evolutionary need to survive and to continue and to pass their genes to the future generation has arised those feminine and masculine qualities that are sure this passing of genes to the future generation. So women can look around for the best mate. So she might need safety, she might need someone who can secure the survival of her offspring and someone who can protect her. And men could be competitive against each other and to have as much as partners and to secure their partner in order to pass their genes. So according to social biology and evolutionary psychology, it's all about that innate instinctive evolutionary need to pass our genes. What comes to arise these gender differences and these masculine and feminine characteristics. So these two theories that we have seen are, as I mentioned when I started the theories, are under essentialism, which accounts more of biological justification for these are differences in gender. But there are some critics of essentialism. So the first one is essentialists ignore the historical and cultural variability of gender and sexuality. It kind of assumes that gender is universal throughout the world, but that's not the case. So there is historical and cultural variability, and gender can be different from one culture to other. Essentialism tends to generalize from the average, ignoring variation within gender groups. The other one is it tends to see everyone as same. So on average, there could be masculine and feminine qualities, but a male could be less aggressive than an average man. We could find a man who is less aggressive than an average woman, and we can find a woman more upfront and different from the stereotypical gender characteristics than an average man. So these individual differences are not considered. The other one is lack of evidence that directly supports the essentialist major claims, so lack of research evidence. The other one is essentialist explorations for gender difference ignore the role of power. So it doesn't show how the role of power and how historically men possess much power can reinforce a certain masculine and feminine qualities to continue throughout generations, and the role of power in developing these different gender roles and gender characteristics. The other theory is social construction. So social construction is the main alternative to essentialism. So it illustrates behavioral differences first by considering how boys and girls learn masculine and feminine roles, in the family and at school, and then how gender roles are maintained in the course of everyday social interaction in advertising in the mass media. So social construction theory tries to understand and tries to explain the origin of gender difference in terms of it being socially constructed. So it starts in the home where boys and girls look at their parents, their siblings, their family, and how they interact, and what are the gender roles, and what characteristics does women and men possess. So it can start from modeling that, and it could go to course of everyday social interaction in which those masculine and feminine roles can be reinforced. So gender socialization is a common term that is used in social construction. So research shows that from birth, infant boys and girls who are matched in length, weight, and general health are treated differently by parents and fathers in particular. Girls are tend to be identified as delicate, weak, beautiful, and acute, and boys as more strong, alert, and well coordinated. Parents are more likely to encourage their sons to engage in boisterous and competitive play and discourage their daughters from doing likewise. So at home, in our communities, there are certain masculine and feminine qualities that are attached to a certain gender and that are encouraged when a certain gender acts in a certain way and discouraged if the other gender acts in that same way. So these prescriptions by our parents and how we are treated can account to our socialization of gender and construction of gender. They encourage families, mostly they encourage girls to engage in cooperative role-playing games, and this play pattern leads girls to the heightened development of verbal and emotional skills. On the other hand, boys are more likely than girls to be praised for assertiveness, and girls are more likely than boys to be rewarded for compliance. So what we are praised for, what we are reinforced for, what we are rewarded for, and what we are punished for, or what we are discouraged for, increases the likelihood of acting in a certain way. So if boys are praised and encouraged for being more assertive, being more masculine, masculine character, being reinforced for more masculine characters, what we call masculine characteristics, they tend to construct their characteristics in that way. So what we are praised for and what we are punished for is part of the construction of gender. So given this early socialization, it seems perfectly natural that boys toys stress aggression, completion, spatial manipulation in outdoor activities, while girls toys stress nurturing, physical attractiveness, and indoor activities. Adults' gender demands and expectation contribute importantly to gender socialization. So according to gender socialization, adolescents must start choosing courses in school. Their gender ideologies are well formed, and gender ideologies are set of interrelated ideas about what constitutes appropriate masculine and feminine roles and behaviors. So adolescents usually make course choice with gender ideologies in mind. So gender socialization includes these demands and expectations from family, society, and others, and also ourselves. So as we grow up, what we are told is right for us and what is appropriate for us, and the appropriate way to behave as a female or as a male also inform our future choices, for example, in career, and in our interactions, in our relationships. So it could inform a lot of our identity because it includes that demand and that expectation from the society and from ourselves. The other important component of gender socialization is the mass media. So the social construction of gender can start at family, then can go to the school, and outside school, children, adolescents, and adults continue to negotiate gender roles as they interact with the mass media. If you systematically observe roles played men and women in TV programs and ads, one evening you will probably discover a pattern of gender socialization. So systematically, if we try to observe and try to notice and have this up-close look at what our TV programs constitute, what our advertisements constitute, we can clearly see how the different gender roles and the different gender identity is displayed and shown. Women will more frequently be seen cleaning house, taking care of children, modeling clothes, and acting as objects of male desire. So we can see this a lot. And men will more frequently be seen aggressive action-oriented, autocratic roles, and more authoritative and doing things, getting things. They could be displayed in this manner and they could be painted in this way. So this can reinforce the normality of traditional gender roles. So for children looking at that, even for adults looking at that, so it would be prescribing and it would be reinforcing, encouraging that certain traditional gender role and that certain masculine and feminine characteristics that we attribute for the two different genders. The other one is male-female interaction. So the gender roles children learn in their families, at school, and through the mass media form the basis for their social interactions as adults. For instance, by playing team sport, boys tend to learn that social interaction is most often about competition, conflict, self-sufficiency, and hierarchical relationships. They understand the importance of taking center stage and boasting about their talents. However, on the other hand, by playing with dolls and baking sets, girls tend to learn to that social interaction is most often about maintaining cordial relationships, avoiding conflict advice, and not promoting themselves or being bossy. Because of these early socialization patterns, misunderstandings between men and women are common. So this also has serious implications for who gets hurt and who gets credit at work. So through their place in through what they are encouraged to be and through how they are encouraged to play, the two genders can construct their identities in different manners. So boys are more engaged in those kinds of places where there is competition, there is conflict, and showing off. And girls tend to engage in a more domestic kind of playing way and in a more meek and somehow humble kinds of interaction. So this constructed identity can come to the public sphere when they are engaged, when they are adults and when they are engaged in the public sphere, in school and at work, when there needs to be a time to speak up, a time to show off, a time to make their abilities being seen. These constructed identities can come into play and can have their own effect in the workplace and at school. So it can have implications in who gets hurt, because there are certain expectations from male and a female. So there are characteristics that we attribute for a male and for a female. So it can also affect what we expect from a female colleague and what we expect from a male colleague. So it can affect who gets credit at work and who gets hurt. So this socialization can come in a way which can a person can develop a certain gender identity, which can go to a long time period of a person's life, and which can influence a person's different aspect of life interactions and achievements. The other topic is gender-based stereotype. So human beings use social categorization in a way that makes life easy. So we tend to categorize people, we try to understand people in a way that is easier, and we use these cognitive shortcuts to understand people and to categorize them and classify them. So this process of categorizing an individual into a particular group and attributing a set of characteristics to the individual based on the group membership is termed as a stereotype. So when we categorize an individual and when we attribute a certain characteristics to an individual, to a person, because of his membership to a certain group, whether it's his or her membership to a gender, or whether it is a membership to a race, to ethnicity, to a certain nationality, or other membership. And because of that membership, when we give the person a certain characteristics, and when we think a person definitely possesses a certain characteristics because of his or her identification to a certain group. The act of categorizing individuals may be based on race, economic status, gender, age, or disability. So gender-based stereotyping is defined as psychological process that shows individuals structured sets of beliefs about the personal attributes of males and females. So it's a process in which there are sets of beliefs about the personal attributes of male and female and what we expect from male and female. So these stereotypes lead us to treat all members in the group as the same. They lead to narrow expectations for members of the group. They are crude generalization about the behavior of women and men. Research indicate that there is a mismatch between stereotypes and reality. So stereotypes are pictures in mind rather than being a real representative of the group. This is because groupings are made from insufficient data, as the person doing the stereotyping is reacting more to the real characteristics of the individual being perceived, rather than basing our perception and explanation on actual evidence. Gender-based stereotype is so powerful. Positively or negatively, it can color the behavior of men and women in different areas. So it can guide how we perceive men and how we perceive women, what we demand from men and what we demand from female, and what we expect from a male and what we expect from a female. More specifically, gender-based stereotypes go to workplace, shape the people's view employees' skills and attributes. So how we view employees' skills and attributes. For instance, men more than women are taught to harbor agent traits like decisive and task-oriented. On the other hand, women are more than men taught to have communal attributes such as nurturance and orientation to relationship. So in the for the sake of understanding stereotypes, we'll try to see the different dimensions of stereotypes. So stereotypes can be complex in nature. So analysis of their nature should take into consideration the different aspects or dimensions. So stereotype can have 4 dimensions or aspects. It could be content, direction, uniformity, and intensity. So when we talk about content of stereotype, we're talking about whether it is descriptive, or prescriptive in nature. So descriptive stereotypes refers to clusters of traits or behaviors or attributes that are taught to describe men and women. So what we think describes women. So women are neat, women are more detail oriented, women are caring, women are more humble. It could be different attributes, different behaviors that we think women are, or what we think describes all women. So a certain woman can be described in this manner, but that does not mean all women can be described in a set of attributes, set of traits. And we can conclude that every woman can be described in this or possesses these characteristics. Characteristics. So it could be a descriptive content, or it could be descriptive in form, or it could be prescriptive. So when we say prescriptive, we're saying that it refers to the norms showing how men and women should be. For example, communal attributes for which women are valued positive are aspects of the should of women. Perspective stereotypes also refers to the should not being a woman. So when we are talking about prescriptive, we're talking about how a woman ought to be, how a man ought to be. So these stereotypes does not only describe, but they put these expectations and demands and try to define a person's identity in a more prescriptive way, and this is how you should be, and this is how you should not be. ስለዚህ ሴት እንደዚህ ታደርጋለች እንዴ፣ ሴት እንደዚህ ትሆናለች እንዴ፣ ወንድ ያለቅሳል እንዴ ብንል ለምሳሌ this is a prescriptive stereotype that thinking men are more or less emotional, and they should not cry in front of others, and they should not show emotions, these kinds of emotions in front of others. So these are the shoulds. So a man would be forced to hide these kinds of emotions because of these prescriptive stereotypes. The content of stereotypes, either prescriptive or descriptive, can make people to have roughly consensual beliefs, not only about how men and women are, but how they ought to be and how they are going to. So accordingly, men can react attributes. Men react in a way that can reflect competency. So they could show attributes such as forceful, aggressive, influential, respectable, independent, and women can be described as being kind, helpful, sympathetic, and concerned for others, and more passive and dependent. And this could lead to women and men to want to act accordingly, to behave accordingly, even though that might not be their true self. This prescriptive and the should of society can make men and women want to behave in a way that is compliant with these expectations. The other one is uniformity. So uniformity as a dimension of stereotype refers to the degree of agreement among subjects, among people, or among the society, to what extent certain trait attributes characterize men and women. So those traits on which at least 57% agreement existed among subjects can be considered more descriptive of the average man, or vice versa, and it could be stereotypic. So women are passive. If there is if that trait that we attribute for a woman is agreed upon with more than half of the society or more than half of the people, it's more a uniform and more stereotypic and more accepted kind of stereotype that describes and as well as prescribes certain attributes and certain traits to a certain gender. The other one is direction of stereotypes. The direction of stereotype is embedded in the traits comprising the stereotypes. So it could be positive or negative, or it could be neutral. So when we are talking about the stereotypes, sometimes some of the things that are said about or that are expected from a certain gender or are used to describe a certain gender can be positive, can be good qualities, but also they could be negative. But even when they are positive, they are not fair to that individual person because they are just assuming that because a certain person is part of a certain gender, he or she should be just like that, like it is expected and described in a way it is expected from a group. So it could be positive, it could be negative, but it still is not the right way to categorize people, and it's not the right way to deal with people because it would have that unfairness in it, even when it is positive. The next one is intensity. So other dimension of stereotype is related to the direction of dimension and the degree of favorableness and unfavorableness. So it could be positive, it could be negative. And if it's negative, and even when it's positive, it could have that effect. It could be less favorable, and it could make things hard for women, and it could make things hard for men. So how favorable is that stereotype? When we are talking about intensity, we're talking about that effect of the stereotype. So the direction and the degree of descriptiveness and the degree of prescriptiveness of that certain attribute. So I hope we can make breakout rooms before proceeding to the next section, which is gender-based discrimination, which would be covered by Dr. Salah. Here are two questions for your brainstorming and discussion. So what are the gender-based stereotypes that our society hold about men and women? And could you please identify these stereotypes? Abi? የለም አቢ ብሬክአውት ሩም ማድረግ እንችላለን? ዲስከስ አድርገው ሲጨርሱ እናጋራ። አንድ ላይ ናቸው ብለን አንድ ላይ አይመስለኝም። ወይ አክቲቪቲ ላቸው ራሳቸው ትንሽ ያስቡበት ነው። Anyone I can talk to from students? ከዚህ በፊት ግሩፕ አክቲቪቲ ኖሯችሁ ያውቃል?
ሰላም
አቤት አቤት።
እንትና ማን ነው?
አይሰማኝም ግን
በእምነት የምትባል ልጅ አለች ኮኦርዲኔተር። አሁን አይሰማም?
ይሰማል ይሰማል።
ማን ነው? ናቲ የሚሰማችሁ ተማሪዎች አላችሁ? ማውራት የምትችሉ
ብሬክአውት ማድረግ ብቻ አንድ ላይ አይደለም ማለት
የጠችቻችሁ እኮ ነው።
ይሰማል?
እስቲ አውሩ።
አይሰማም?
ሳቲንጉ ላይ ቴክስት አለ።
አብይ አይሰማኝም። ስለዚህ ብሬክአውት ሩም ማድረግ እንችላለን ወይስ በየግላቸው ሪፍሌክት ያደርጉበትና ፕሮሲድ እናድርግ ወደ ኔክስት?
የቻላችሁ ቴክስት ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ። ቴክስት አድርግላት ወይ ቴክስት ቻቲንግ ስላለ
አብይ የምትለኝ አይሰማኝም። እስኪ አንድ ጊዜ
ሰላም
አቤት
በቃ ብሬክ ማድረግ ትችያለሽ። እንግዲህ እንትን ካላለ
ይቻላል።
ብሬክ አድርጊና መቀጠል ይቻላል።
ተሰክቷል። ስቶፕ ሼሪንግ ለማለት